Ashley from 97.5 WAMZ, and we are joined by a native Kentuckian, and that is Dotsie Bausch. And Dotsie, you've done so much to make the state of Kentucky proud. You've broken world records, you've gotten an Olympic medal, you have been a national champion, what, 8 times?
Yes. Correct. Yes, yes, yes. You're doing great. Thank you for that.
Don't be shy about it. But Dotsie, so you were an Olympic cyclist, and now you've moved on to another part of your career, and that is getting people to switch for good. Tell us what Switch4Good is.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me on. Yes, I grew up in Louisville and went to Ballard High School and had an amazing, wonderful upbringing there. My whole family still lives there, and I was just there last week. So, yeah, I miss it a lot. But so Switch4Good is a educational resource tool. We are a full-blown nonprofit, and what we focus on is helping people to lean into better health via removing dairy from their diet for all sorts of different reasons, which we can certainly go into if you like. But yes, the website is switch4good.org, and I started it about 1.5 years ago. It really was kind of brought to my sphere and a lot of other Olympian spheres when we just finally, I think, were fed up with all of the milk marketing, using athletes and our medal winning performances to peddle their product. And it was just like, you know what, it's time to tell the truth. There are many athletes all over the world that don't drink breast milk from a cow to produce premium performances. You know, that's not what it's about. And so we started Switch4Good to really help people, educate them, hold their hand on their dairy-free journey, and make it a fun journey, because that's one of the most important parts.
Yeah, so Switching4Good is something that's actually impacted me personally, Dotsie. So last year, I'm on the radio, and I started losing my voice. And being somebody that works on the radio, that's like the most important thing ever.
Yeah.
And so my doctor recommended that I go to an allergist, and I had an allergy test done for the first time ever in my life. And I was so surprised to find out that I'm highly allergic to dairy. Mm-hmm. And so since then, I have done my very best to cut out dairy. It's hard. It really is, like, especially when you love pizza and stuff like that. But I have been experiencing a significant difference as far as my voice goes after I cut out dairy. And once you start on that journey, like I said, it seems really hard at first, but then you get used to it. And there's a lot of great alternatives out there too, aren't there?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love pizza too. I had pizza 2 nights ago. So, you know, you really, right now in the day and time that we're living in, I mean, 20 years ago it was a little bit more challenging, but nowadays, I mean, we have so many wonderful plant-based cheeses, right? Most of them are made from nuts, cashews or almonds. My favorites are made from cashews because it's got, you know, you want that fat in your cheese, right? But it's a good, healthy plant-based fat instead of saturated fat like is in dairy cheese. So there's all sorts of different cheese shreds that you just go to the grocery store, go to the section that you know has some plant-based products and pick the cheese that you like. And so many pizza places, I think Blaze Pizza, I think you guys have that in Louisville. They have vegan cheese there. So you really don't have to miss out on that fun. But it's, you know, one of the reasons that it's so important for people to understand about dairy is that, yes, many people have an allergy to it, but a large percentage of the population just has lactose intolerance, right? Which is the sugar in dairy, one of the sugars in dairy. And we are designed to be able to digest lactose because it's in our own mother human breast milk. But there's an enzyme that we have in our gut that helps to digest it called lactase. And that enzyme turns off by Mother Nature around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 because we no longer need to be breastfeeding. I'm assuming Mother Nature thinks we don't need to breastfeed past those ages. So that turns off. And in people where that lactase enzyme turns off, they become then what's known as lactose intolerant. What it is really people who do not turn off are known as lactase persistence. If they do not have lactose intolerance, over time their lactase enzyme stays on. So lactose intolerance is pretty gnarly in terms of the side effects, right? It is exacerbates asthma and breathing problems, especially in children, really bad. If you wake up with kind of dry morning cough or stuffy nose, that's very potentially probably lactose intolerance. And then it also really messes with your gut, constipation, diarrhea, stomach bloating. And the beauty is, you don't have to go see a doctor to see if you have lactose intolerance. The easiest thing to do, I think, and it's completely free, is just to do like a 10-day test. Get the dairy out of your diet, put in some plant-based sources, or you don't even have to put it, don't replace it if you don't want to. Completely get it out of your diet for about 10 days, and you'll know. You'll definitely know. Your gut will tell you if you are. And then if you are lactose intolerant, we are here for you, Switch4Good, and we can help you on the journey and know what all the alternatives are and get you all set up.
Yeah, so you can go to switch4good.org to find out more about switching from dairy, and you guys have recipes on there, all kinds of great information. And Dotsie, I was reading that you went vegan while you were competing for the Olympics. Is that correct?
I did a couple of years out from Olympic Games. So like I said, I grew up in Kentucky, right? So I grew up on barbecue and brisket and macaroni and cheese and Kentucky Fried Chicken. 35 years of my life, I ate, all sorts of animals and animal products. And then a couple years out from Olympic Games, I made a switch in my diet, leaning way more into plant foods and away from animal foods because they're so highly inflammatory. And inflammation is definitely the devil for premium performance, right? Because it really inhibits your repair and your recovery process. And it also is the impetus to many of our diseases that we have today. Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, which is America's #1 killer, right? It kills about 700,000 Americans every year. And that's due to the saturated fat. And dairy is the #1 source of saturated fat in the American diet. So I wanted to get rid of the inflammation, and man, oh man, yeah, getting the animal foods and the animal products. I had no idea that it was going to be so profound, but it really was. And I was a little bit of an older athlete. I stood on the Olympic podium at 39 and a half, which is still the oldest athlete in history in my discipline. And I really believe that my diet had a lot to do with me being able to get to the Olympic Games and stand on that podium, right? Because that recovery was key. As we all know, as we get older, recovery gets harder and harder. So switching over to a plant-based diet, yeah, wow, it was amazing.
Yeah, I bring that up because as an Olympic athlete, or an athlete in general, somebody that works out a lot, I think there is a misperception out there that you need dairy in order to perform at that high level. And so you have proven that that's not necessary.
Yeah, and so many other athletes. I mean, so many Olympians now, some Major League Baseball players like Chase Utley. Half the LA Dodgers are dairy-free. We have a nutrition program with the LA Clippers. NBA players, Kyrie Irving. There's so many of them that are realizing the really profound performance effects. But it's just, we've just been told and sold this narrative our whole lives, right? By the dairy industry, by the people who profit off of us believing them. So I'm always encouraging people to just think a little bit more critically. Think about who told you that milk was good for you, right? It doesn't really add up to be, drinking the breast milk from another species in adulthood. It doesn't make sense to drink breast milk at all in adulthood, really, if you think about it. So it's kind of like just, it's a bit of a mind bender, but when we think logically and critically through it, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, okay. And breast milk has some nutrients in it, right? And the big one, people are like, oh, I got to get my calcium. There's a significant amount of more calcium in many plant foods. Almonds and sesame seeds are the top, and they are 50% more bioavailable than the calcium is in dairy foods. So sprinkle some sesame seeds on your salad, or to eat tahini, right? Because that's what, like the nut butter form of sesame seeds is tahini. Dip your carrots or your chips in tahini, eat some kale, have a handful of almonds, you're fine. There's your calcium. It is certainly not the only source of calcium in dairy. That's a complete misnomer.
Yeah, so lots of alternatives out there, and you can get all that info at switch4good.org. Dotsie Bausch is a Kentucky native, and thank you for everything that you're doing to educate people. I think, as I said, there's a lot of misperception out there about dairy helps people, and the alternatives, there's plenty of other things that you can use to get the calcium, as you just spoke of. And as an Olympic athlete who went vegan, I'm just so impressed. And this diet, like a vegan or a dairy-free diet, is really good for you. Not to mention all of the other stuff you brought up that is a result of eating dairy, which is indigestion, diarrhea, all that nasty stuff. Who wants that?
Yeah, nobody does. Yeah. And I encourage people to just take it slow, right? Take some steps forward. Focus on what some of the new foods are that you're going to bring into your diet. Don't focus on what you have to take out. To me, it's really not a diet. It's a lifestyle. I've never felt better even now at 47 than I did, 10 years ago. So just have fun with it. I think people tend to think of, quote, diets as very restrictive. So don't think of this that way. Just, if you drink a glass of milk a day, go to the store and try some, buy some cashew milk or some oat milk or some flaxseed milk or some almond milk or some soy milk. The alternatives are endless, and just see what you like. Check it out. See if you feel better. If you feel a little better, then look at, okay, now I'm going to switch over my yogurt. Tons of plant-based yogurts in the store. So just enjoy yourself, right? Like, have fun with the journey. Don't strive for perfection.
Dotsie Bausch is with Switch4Good. You can find out more at switch4good.org. Thank you so much, Dotsie, for the time.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.